Last glow of the day slid across the pasture. Long shadows laying quiet on the clay. I walked out to that old wooden fence where you once leaned and laughed my name away. In my coat pocket I carried a locket. Your smile trapped behind cracked glass. I didn't cry, I'd done that already, back when shame was all I had to pass. I stopped by that cottonwood tree we carved, our initials crooked like two drifters fade. I traced them once with a callous thumb and said, girl, this is where I let you wait. The wind curled around me like an old memory, gentle, not cruel, not wild. And I whispered almost kindly, I ain't here to resurrect you, child. I said goodbye with both eyes open. No curse, no plea, no righteous cry. I didn't kill the love we had, I just let it rest and die. I laid that locket under the cottonwood roots, like a worn-out prayer finally laid to sleep. I ain't dragging that ghost behind me. I'm learning what a heart can keep. Later on I sat by the back porch rail, cicadas humming like a tired choir. I lit a match to the last letter you wrote, watched your handwriting curl in the fire. And then I heard your voice in my memory, not angry, not bitter, just true. You couldn't save me from myself. And I answered soft, well honey, you couldn't save me too. No fight, no thunder, no begging the past to rewind. Just two souls that lost each other when they ran out of time. I pressed my palm to my chest, felt a pulse I thought I lost. And I realized the heart ain't broken, it's just learning what love costs. I said goodbye with both eyes open. No curse, no plea, no righteous cry. I didn't kill the love we had, I just let it rest and die. I first light of the day was bleeding through my blinds. Soft orange glow on the old wood floor. I kicked off my boots and sat by the stove. Left every excuse outside the door. I spent years outrunning shadows, hushing every growl inside my chest. But that evening I quit playing scared and let the truth scratch through my vest. I poured a shot of rye in a dinner tin cup, let the burn remind me what I'd done. Then I said, alright, come on in. And I didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't run. The room got heavy as a hangman's silence, air thick like a preacher's last sigh. And in that still weight of reckoning, I heard a demon step inside. I said, sit, talk, don't hide. No yelling, no throwing, no hell to ignite. I looked that darkness straight in the eye and said, I know where you were born and why. I ain't praying for a savior tonight, I ain't begging for a softer fate. I'd rather face the monster I carry than keep pretending it ain't an ache. It sat across from me in a wooden chair, patch of shadow with eyes like coal. And I saw pieces of myself inside it. The hunger, the hurt, the hole. I ask you here to break me, it smirked, I'm here cause you never spoke my name. I nodded slow, tapped the cup, yeah, I was the one feeding you shame. Then I took a pocket knife from my belt, cut a shallow line across my thumb, let a drop of blood fall onto the floor, a quiet oath of what I'd become. I said, I ain't your prisoner anymore. And that shadow leaned back almost amused, but with every word I spoke aloud, its shape got thin, got bruised. I felt a weight unclamped from my rib cage, like chain slid clean off bone. And the demon whispered, almost gentle, you finally claim what's always been your own. I said, sit, talk, don't hide. No yelling, no throwing, no hell to ignite. I looked that darkness straight in the eyes and said, I know where you were born and why. I didn't banish it to the abyss, didn't bury it under denial stone. I learned the dark by inviting it close, and that's how I made the night my own. And when the last ember faded on the stove, I found myself standing steady and grown, not a man free of demons, but a man they can't own. Low sun hanging over the feed store roof, copper light crawling across your boots. You sat quiet at that long oak table, hands folded like a convict in a suit. Folks around you spoke on your behalf, every word like a leash on your throat. One of them chuckled, he's just shy. Let me explain what he meant to quote. You didn't cut in, not at first. You let them talk like they owned your tongue, but in your chest a slow fuse hissed, and a voice like I'm begun. You stared at your reflection in a dusty window glass, warping you like a funhouse lie. And quiet as a dagger in a church pew, you said, if I stay silent, I teach them I'll comply. When pushed dirt across the floorboards, like the ground itself was speaking up. Something sacred and rebellious was filling your cup. You said, shut up, I'll speak. Your voice cut through like barbed wire clean. You weren't asking to be heard, you were taking the right to be seen. You didn't wait for a kind of moment, you didn't beg for their consent. You claimed your tongue like a stolen weapon and broke that silence where it went. Later on by the half-collapsed shed, sunset crawling red through the slats. You took a tarnished dog tag from your pocket, rubbed it clean with the sweat of your back. That tag once held a name, they gave you a label that kept you in a box. You spat on it, wiped it off, and hung it on a rusted nail in the rocks. Then the wind spoke in a dry whisper, or maybe it was something deeper inside. You want comfort or command, and you answered with a gritty grin. If I gotta burn for power, then let me fry. You dug your thumb into your palm till it bled, a ritual crimson and raw. You pressed that print against your throat, like sealing your own law. Shadows stretched long behind you, like the past trying to pull you back slow. But you stood taller than that history and let your real voice grow. You said, shut up, I'll speak. Your voice cut through like barbed wire clean. You weren't asking to be heard, you were taking the right to be seen. You tore off every borrowed sentence, every soft apology mask. You didn't wait to be invited, you made your speaking task. And when the sun dipped fully down, you didn't look to see who stayed. You walked forward with your own voice ringing, a bell that never needs to be swayed. They can call you stubborn, reckless, loud, but they can't decide your story, because a voice that finally belongs to itself speaks with outlaw glory. The sun was dropping behind the distant grain silos, sky burning orange like a slow dying coal. I sat at a roadside diner booth, cheap coffee and old heartache in a chip blue bowl. Folks gave me those slow, sad glances, like I was some wounded stray limping on through. One old man that leaned over and mumbled, son, that's taking a lot out of you. I didn't answer, I just smirked, shoved that pity right back where it came. There's a part of me that snarls at sympathy, like a dog that remembers the chain. Chrome from the jukebox caught a shot of sunset, throwing my reflection back, warped but alive. I whispered just for me to hear, I don't want comfort, I wanna thrive. My pulse kicked like a slow drum roll, boots tapping on the cracked floor tile. And in that heat of quiet rebellion, I felt something old in me turn hostile. like the man who will not break. Don't pity me, just watch me rise. I ain't begging fate for a softer land. I spit out the taste of being fragile, and anger sharpened into command. I ain't wearing victim shades no more. I'm melting them down with the fire I make. I don't wait to be saved, hell no. I walk like the man who will not break. Later on by the barn behind my rental place, cicadas rattling like loose nails in a jar. I took a dented silver flask from my coat, poured whiskey over an old fire scar. Took out a blackened pocket knife, held it up against that fading light. I carved a line in the wood of the post, a vow instead of a prayer that night. Then I heard a voice behind my left shoulder. Maybe wine, maybe sin, maybe God's last dare. You want the easy road or the crown? I laughed, cracked a grin, didn't even turn. If victory asks for blood, I'll pay the fare. I rubbed dirt on my palms like a ritual, feel of earth grinding in the skin. Not asking for grace, just asking for the strength to win. The horizon shade into bruised violet shadows crawling long across the clay. But I felt a furnace burn inside me like the kind that don't fade or fray. Don't pity me, just watch me rise. I ain't begging fate for a softer land. I spit out the taste of being fragile, let anger sharpen into command. I ain't wearing victim shades no more. I'm melting them down with the fire I make. I don't wait to be saved, hell no. I walk like the man who will not break. I ain't looking for someone to lift me, I'm looking for something bigger to conquer. Not the soul that pleads for rescue, but the one storms learn to suffer under. And if the world wants me broken, it better bring tools tougher than pity. Cause I ain't the boy blown around by fate. I'm the outlaw who rewrites it. August night, tin roof talking, trailer shake when the sky rolled in. He was standing in a busted doorway, boots still muddy from the life he sinned. Whiskey on the counter, blood on his paycheck, old church Bible face down on the floor. Her lipstick ghost on a cracked shot glass, wild little hurricane that don't come round no more. Out there whipping every pine in the holler, howling like the dogs when they smelled his fear. Neon cross buzzed over some cheap boss sign, reminding him of every lost year. Thunder hit like a judge with a hammer, rain beat time on that rust-tint skin. He heard her voice in the back of his memory. Baby, this storm gonna eat you if you let it in. He looked at his hands, shook but steady, knuckles scarred from the wrong he'd done. If God was watching, he was hiding in the clouds, waiting to see if the boy would run. So he stepped outside, let the sky swing first, let the whole damn heaven come down on his name. Wind through dust, through grit, through hurt, rain washed red off his shadow in the lane. his silhouette in the carved out stone. Walked through storms trying hard to fold him. All it did was make his backbone grow. He didn't beg that night for the rain to stop, didn't plead for the thunder to break. He ain't praying for calm, no, not ever. He just prayed for a spine that never break. Sunrise found him sitting on the trailer steps, cigarette hanging like a tied white flag, pocket full of numbers from the sins he'd done. Folks, he cheated when the times got bad. In town they whispered he sold his soul, took dirty money from a preacher's son, shot a man's dream dead over car deck lies, then kissed that wild girl like a loaded gun. He pulled a rusty chain with a small cross pinned in black with sweat smoking in his palm, cut his thumb on the edge till the blood ran thin, let it drip on that cross like a back road song. He raised it up toward the bruised purple morning, storm clouds limping off the ridgeland slow. You wanted thunder, he muttered to the heavens, watch me stand in the mess I chose. And somewhere deep where the dark gets quiet, where devils whisper soft like kin, he heard a voice laugh low in the lightning. Your mind if you stay on your knees again. He shook his head, rain, sweat, blood together, talked back through the ache in his bones. Devil, if you want me, come and take me, but I ain't crawling to your throne. Slow like an old live oak, roots sunk deep in that poor red clay. World through wind, through hell, through judgment, he just squared his shoulders to the spray. Lightning framed him like a burned out saint, storm crown hanging crooked on his brow. Once he drowned in every wild love tempest, now he's the rock that makes the storm bow down. He just walks like a man that will not break. Yeah, the night tried hard to blow his soul. I'll try to wash his name clean off that road, but he stood there stormproof, dark eyes laughing in the sky, learned fear of the man below. I stepped out behind the old barn, with the moon laying long shadows across the dirt. The ghosts of who I used to be lined up in front of me like judge on a fence rail. I could almost hear him saying, you'll never outrun who you were. I clenched my jaw, lifted my head, and felt the weight fall from my shoulders like chains snapping. I told the dark behind me, you don't own me anymore. I stood taller than the man I left behind, high enough that his shadow couldn't touch my eyes. I ain't kneeling for sins I've already paid in flesh. I've earned my place in the light I walk toward. The past can howl all it wants, but I ain't turning around. I'm done crawling through yesterday. I'll ride There was a cross hanging around my neck, rusted where sweat and time had bitten it. I pulled it off, kissed it once, and set it down in the dirt, gently, like a burial. Then I grabbed a fistful of earth, rubbed it across my face, and said to myself, this is the skin I live in now. The old me faded, like smoke slipping off into the night. I murmured to the man I used to be, if I can forgive you, you can finally leave. I stood tall enough to break the chain of memory. It shook off the names they carved into me. I don't bow, don't bend, don't bleed for the past no more. I walk forward, with the sun on my face and every mile earned in fire. That was the and the past stopped reaching me. Around midnight, behind that roadside bar, neon cross buzzed blue on her borrowed car. Dust on my boots, blood dry on my lip, ash in my lungs from the last cigarette tip. Her suitcase open on the motel bed, cheap gold chain hanging off the edge like a thread. Bible on the nightstand, pages bent and brown, shot glass haloed in a ring of whiskey round. She said, you're gonna break that chair, waiting on the thunder that used to live in there. I just watched the smoke draw halos in the room, heard my own heart move like boots on a wooden tomb. I used to rage till the walls turned red, punching my name in the side of the bed. Now it's quiet in the places that hurt, like a church after everyone leaves with their dirt. I saw a face in the motel glass, looked like a ghost wearing my past. Right then I knew what the silence meant. Love ain't sleeping, love packed up and went. So I walked out slow, no curse, no prayer, left my ring like a coin on the bedside there. Didn't slam no door, didn't spit her name, didn't load that gun hanging on my shame. I just turned my back on a holy mess, boots in the gravel, smoke on my breath. And I swear to God, in that midnight air, when love finally dies, even the pain ain't there. Yeah, I walked away, stone cold, no anger, just a man unhooked from a wild-eyed stranger. Funeral for a feeling in a cheap motel light. No tears, no fight, just a long, clean night. Yeah. A mile down the road by the railroad tracks, I lay that chain with the little cross flat on the dash. Moon looked down like a tidal judge. Wind carried off different town, same temper, same cheap gin. Back then I begged God just to bring her back. Now I just asked him, Lord, don't let me turn back. She called my phone once, name lit up in red screen like a tiny stained glass of things we said. I watched it ring out, let the silence pray. That was the last hymn our love ever sang that day. I ain't no saint, I'm a man gone wrong. Built my church out of whiskey and old fight songs. But even a sinner knows when the well runs dry, when the devil gets bored of watching you try. I whispered, girl, I ain't mad no more, to the ghost of her standing in that open door. Truth hit hard like the back of his head. I didn't forgive you, I just wasn't your man. So I drove on through that hollow dark, left our names carved in that motel park. Didn't pull no U-turn, didn't chase that flame, let the ashes ride shotgun, never spoke her name. I walked out slow, no curse, no prayer, left my heart like a bill I refused to bear. Didn't swing my sins like a loaded fist, just laid them down in the fog and the drift. Yeah, I walked away, stone cold, no anger, just a scarred soul, not a lone avenger. When love turns corpse in a borrowed bed, you don't kill it twice, you just let it stay dead. Oh, so if heaven writes this down as my crime, ink it in blood on the edge of time. Cause the night I left her without hating my eyes, I didn't lose my heart, I finally cut it from the lies. Now when I pass that road, that cross still glows. Wind hums low about the boy she used to know. I tip my hat to the ghost of that room. I ain't asking for joy, just less perfume, I'm doomed. I ain't clean, but I'm done begging to be saved by fire. If the Lord wants me, He can find me walking higher. Some loves burn holy, some rot in the clay. Mine died quiet, and I walked away. Sunlight cut across your face, catching every scar like it was scripture. You stood by that cracked mirror in your kitchen, hands steady on the counter, face open to the truth of it. They looked at those scars like they were proof of your downfall, but you looked at them like medals earned in blood and grit. You didn't hide, didn't turn away. You let them see. You told us silence, these scars ain't shame, they prove I stayed on my feet. You wore every mark like a crown of iron, not a chain they hung around your neck. You didn't flinch when they stared, you stared right back. Taller than the man you used to be, every wound you survived paid for every inch you rose, and they can't take that from you. You said to the empty room, so this is what it costs to love wrong. You clean the blood with whiskey, not to numb yourself, but to mark the wound with something honest. You didn't hide the scar, you claimed it. You told the ghost of her, I don't break, I built from it. You owe every scar like a banner in the wind. Proof you bled and proof you healed. You stood tall not because life spared you, but because you never bowed, never begged, never hid the pain. That was the day you dressed your wounds with pride, and no one knows your story but you. She showed up at my door, same perfume, same half-danger smile, like she thought she could rewind my heart just by breathing in my doorway. The porch light flickered over her face, casting shadows like her fingerprints on my memory. I leaned on the frame, arms crossed. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. I told her plain, my world don't spin around you anymore. I walked through the fire you left in me, and came out clean on the other side. I ain't your broken toy, ain't your midnight cure, ain't your second try. You can hold my past, but you don't touch my future. Cause the day I let you go was the night I took myself back. There was a time you owned me, hell, I gave you the key. I crawled through glass if you even whispered my name. But tonight when you asked, do you still think about me? I let a small grin slip, not cruel, just honest. I said, not enough to take me off the road I'm on. The wind pushed past us like even the night wanted her gone. I looked her in the eye and said, you don't get to write my story anymore. I burned the ghost of you in me, and walked free through my own truth. I don't need your praise, don't need your poison, don't need that old hunger. You thought I'd always circle back, but I'm already gone. Stopped owning me and I finally own myself. Evening sun sliding down the chip siding of his old house. He stood in the bathroom doorway, boots muddy from work, jaw tight like he'd been chewing on secrets for years. On the sink, a cracked razor, a leather wallet worn thin, and a mirror fogged by time and guilt. He'd swallowed every doubt from every mouth, let it rot him like slow poison. Then he leaned in close to the glass, and something in him snapped. He whispered to that reflection, hell with listening to them, start listening to you. He spat those doubts out like dirt from a grave he crawled from. Let him hit the floor, wet, bitter, gone. From that moment on, his voice was his alone, not borrowed from the crowd that never walked his miles. He didn't need their blessing, didn't need their hand, 'cause the man who spits out doubt finally learns how to breathe. There was a man once, big talker, small heart, who told him, you'll never amount to much, boy. He remembered that voice like a rusty nail stuck in his chest. Now facing the mirror, he clenched his fist and growled, you ain't God, you ain't even right. He rinsed his mouth with cold tap water, like washing sin from a dagger. Spat again, and the sound of it hitting porcelain was like gunfire in a quiet church. He looked up and said, Lord, just let me be the man I'm meant to be. He spat those doubts out like venom from an old wound. The chains of other voices snapped off his bones. He walked out that door with the steadier stride, leaving behind the ghost of the boy they tried to break. From then on, the only voice he followed was the one that rose up from deep in his chest. Rough as gravel, strong as iron, and finally his. It was late, town lights down one by one outside my window. Neon from the bar across the road blinked like a bad heartbeat. I sat on the edge of that beat up bed, boots still on, hands black with work and no mistakes. On the dresser, a chip whiskey glass, a rusted little cross, a Bible fat with dust and cigarette ash. I'd lied, I'd swung, I'd heard folks that never swung back. And all that weight finally cracked my chest open, tears started falling slow and high. And for once I didn't wipe them away. myself in that foggy mirror and said, yeah, you're dirty as hell, but you ain't done yet. I let those tears run down like molten steel inside my ribs. Every drop that hit my hands felt like it was hardening up my grip. They can talk, they can spit, they can drag my name through fire. I done worse than any rumor they can scream. I ain't afraid of their flames no more, 'cause that night I learned fire can burn what's already chosen to be ash. And my crying heart turned into a blade inside my chest. There was a woman once, wild eyes, red lips, like me most when I was half drunk and half sane. She traced my scars and laughed. This the part of you I love, the broken, mean one. But the night the dam finally broke, when tears hit my knuckles like rain on red dirt, her voice came back in my head. Real men don't fall apart, baby. I stared at the cross, that gun, that Bible, and I answered out loud, real men fall apart and get back up. I didn't call her, didn't reach for the bottle, just sat there, letting every old ghost wash through me and out of me. I looked up at the cracked ceiling and muttered, Lord, I ain't asking you to save me, just watch me on what I did. I let those tears pour out like iron, running from a busted vein, from the lies, from the fights, from the nights I loved like a loaded gun. They cooled in the armor on my bones. I don't need pity, don't need soft hands, don't need a clean name. I carry my sin like a chain I chose to wear, not a collar they locked on me. I walked through the fire with a slow cold grin, 'cause that was the night I turned every tear they call weakness into steel holding up my soul. Low sun hanging over the cattle fence, painting your shadow long across the ground. You leaned on that weather gate, heart heavy, looking for some higher sound. Years you waited on a voice of guidance, a hand to lift you when you broke. You kept expecting some old hero to speak the words you never spoke, but all you found was silence, a silence that cut sharper than sin. And in that quiet moment, something changed beneath your skin. You touched the scar on your rib, felt it like the mark of a failed prayer. and you whispered to the fading light, if no one's coming, then I'll be there. You stopped waiting for a savior, stood tall on your own 2 feet. You quit searching for a wiser man and became the one you'd hoped to meet. You took the reins in your own hands, and the dust rose where you walked. You didn't beg for borrowed wisdom, you spoke with a voice that couldn't be mocked. Later on in your workshop shed, lampglow catching dust in the air, you took your father's old pocket knife for to steal with a carpenter's care. You carved the line on the wooden beam, deep and slow with a steady wrist. A vow cut into timber grain, from now on I don't exist as second best. Then came that ghost of doubt, that old coward living in your brain. You ain't strong enough to lead, and you reply, watch me reclaim. You weren't praying for a miracle, you were declaring a rebirth. No angels in the rafters, just the grit of muscle and earth. You wiped sweat and sawdust from your brow, breathing like a man reforged in heat, and you understood no one else could build your heartbeat. You stopped waiting for a savior, stood tall on your own 2 feet. You quit searching for a wiser man and became the one you'd hoped to meet. You let the past fall quiet behind you like an old sermon no longer true, and you walk forward with iron shoulders, not saved by heaven, but built by you. And when the night settled calm and clear, you didn't look for someone to bless your climb. You simply were the man you needed, and that truth rang louder than time. Shoulders like an iron shot, weight dust rising off the ranch yard clay. I walked down past the busted gate, didn't flinch, didn't look away. I've spent years stuck in harsh words, bending like dry grass in another man's wind. But tonight felt different in my bones. Tonight felt like the night I wouldn't bend. Thunder, snow, low across the fields like a wounded god with something to prove. I spat once, wiped my jaw split the sky like a silver vein. For a blink I saw myself in it. Wild, stubborn, alive, I heard a voice from somewhere deep. Maybe hell, maybe heaven, maybe me. You think you can fight the sky? And I answered back, hell, I am the sky. Then I took the chain from around my neck, a dull brass cross, one by time, and raised it to the raging heavens. Not begging for mercy, just making a sign of this pain's a trial. I'll walk it proud. Rain-washed blood from an old scar, like baptism without forgiveness. The storm's house softened for a heartbeat, as if it paused to understand. And in that hush I felt something shift. A crown made of thunder in my hand. I didn't bow, I rolled back. Didn't search for shelter, didn't run or fold. I let the wind whip straight through me and found a fight, it wasn't cold. Some storms ain't meant to be weathered, some storms exist to hear us roar. I ain't the boy who dodges lightning, I'm the man the lightning's looking for. When the clouds finally peeled apart and a strange calm settled in the air, I didn't thank the storm for sparing me, I thanked myself for standing there. Not untouched, not unscarred, but awakened. Like thunder learned my name. The barn lantern drew a logo light, shadow painted scars on the dirt floor. He took off his boots slow and steady, like a man who ain't afraid no more. Folks once spoke daggers at his back, their words like shards beneath his skin. But tonight he laid his bare feet down, ready to bleed and ready to win. A busted whiskey bottle lay scattered, glass glittering like a cruel little field. He looked at it and muttered quiet, pain's a toll, and tonight I pay the yield. He drew one deep breath like dragon would watch me and watch me laugh. He bent down, picked one shot from his heel, held it up to the flickering flame, saw his reflection in that tiny mirror and said, "You ain't breaking me, you became my claim." Then he pressed that bloody shot into a crack in the barnswood wall, like planting a seed of endurance for when tomorrow starts to crawl. The sting of glass turned into clarity, the ache turned into steel. He realized some wounds teach better than they heal. He walked barefoot through the sharp and the shatter, red prints bloom on the splintered ground. Each cut sang out, but each cut was freedom unbound. He didn't pray for softer ropes, didn't wish life wasn't rough. He just grew calluses on his soul from learning life the hard and tough. And by the time he reached the far barn door, he stepped out into the quiet night air. Still cut, still hurt, but stood taller, like a man the pain couldn't wear. He didn't look back at the glass behind him, didn't ask for pity or cheer, because he knew from that night onward the world would bleed before he felt fear. He walked barefoot through the sharp and the shadow,